Today we're in sunny Sedona reviewing the 2019 Kona Honzo ST. I gotta give a big shout out to my buddy Kenny for letting me borrow his bike again. This is his personal size medium Kona Honzo ST. I did a first look video at this. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already to get all the specs. Today we're gonna take it out on some trails in Sedona for an on the bike ride to see what it rides like. I'm here riding with my buddy Dave. He's on his Carbon Chameleon. Let's go ride Axis. This trail's fun both directions. Whew. Feeling that steep head angle already. Even though we have a 140 fork on here, which slackens it out a degree to 67, still feels twitchy to me. Although their reach is spot on, I like their longer reach. But that steeper head angle, man, you feel it immediately. It's just a little twitchy on the front end. Nice and quiet, this bike. Even though it's steel, it's a stiff bike. I can already feel it in my calves. It reminds me a lot of the Middle Child steel feel. It's not zingy and harsh, like you hit a bump and it just zings through the frame. The steel deadens that a little, but it's still too stiff. It transfers energy to your calves and to your feet. Man, I'm holding back. I don't have the confidence to just charge this. Part of it's a stiff rear end and part of it is that steep head angle. And it's not like this is super technical terrain. This is just a flowy blue. The whole reason I talk about stiffness and geometry and ride feel and all that on my reviews is because that's the one thing a geo chart can't tell you. And that's the huge value of reviews. Especially for those that shop online, sight unseen, that haven't ridden a whole bunch of hardtails. You don't know if a frame's gonna ride stiff or not. And that's why I make reviews about them. Yeah, even with the Cush core and the soft S35 wheels, which I like, it's transferring a lot of energy to my calves and ankles. It accelerates nice though. Yeah, it doesn't feel aluminum, you can tell. If I were blindfolded, I could tell this is steel, but it's not compliant in the slightest. You can just feel the property of the steel not resonating everything through the whole frame. Man, I would even say the new Specialized fuse is slightly more comfortable than this despite being aluminum. I like Kona's short chain stays. You know, if they slacken this out to 66 degrees, just 2 degrees slacker, they would have a modern hardtail. That'd be a lot of fun on most trails. Okay, as you go a little bit faster, it removes a little bit more of the chatter, but it's still a stiff frame. But they're nice and cheap, 600 bucks for a frame. And for a lot of people, that puts it in their budget and makes a hardtail possible for them. You have a higher chance of being able to run into a Honzo in the wild than like a Cro-Mag or an RSD or something like that. So it's cool that Kona is in shops and that you can find them and that they're accessible to people. That was a little bit nervous feeling down that. That's a blue, pretty flowy. I can charge on that on my Middle Child and my Banshee, but that head angle is just a little bit off. I love the short rear end. I love the adjustable chain stays. We don't even have them very short right now. I don't love this massive gusset. So this has good standover clearance with that small front triangle, but it's got a longer seat tube than I like. And for short riders or riders with short legs, that's a bummer. Seat tube angle feels a little slack for a modern bike. This bike's due for a refresh. Hasn't changed much in years. It's a good little climber on mellow, flat trails like this. It does well. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad bike. It's a good bike. It's not a great bike that just stands out above the rest. I'd really like to try the big Honzo AL aluminum one. Whew. A lot of people probably think I hate steel bikes. I don't. I just hate how everyone assumes that because a bike's steel, it's gonna ride supple and be comfortable. Because these days, most steel frames are stiffer than they used to be. But it's still a good bike. And if someone had one, they could still have fun on a hardtail and still love it. There's a lot of people out there that shred on these things. But if you're looking to buy a bike, I think spending a couple $100s more on something with a more comfortable and more modern frame is definitely worth the money. Don't be sucked into the cheap price of these frames and just say, oh, I'll just put a bling build on it and then it'll be good. One cool thing about these is you can run an angle set. So you could get one, put a -2° angle set on there and get it to 66 degrees. That's how I'd run it if I had one. I'm curious how the aluminum one rides compared to this. Who knows, we'll have to see, stay tuned. I like the versatility of this bike, that it can be around the single speed, that you can adjust the chainstay to what you want. Pretty fun. All right, I'm gonna try and stop talking about the stiff frame and the steep head angle. They are completely influencing the character of this bike and the ride feel, but let's focus on the rest. I'm nervous to really let her dance. Woo. It's playful. It wants to pop off of every little thing. I like that. That shorter chainstay is cool. And I don't even have it in a short position yet. Fun. It feels really good with a 2.5 tires with 35mm rims. Yeah, that's a fun section. If you own one of these bikes, don't feel bad. My job is to review these and tell you what's different between this and most other hardtails, so people looking can have something to compare it to. So don't feel bad if you love yours and I say there's better ones out there. That's okay. If you love your bike, that's all that matters. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I just pretended like everything's great and made every hardtail just sound fantastic. Nice and quiet. I like how quiet this bike is. And it does feel a little bit more supple than most aluminum frames. So for a steel frame, it's harsh. I still think the Specialized Fuse is a little more comfortable. Banshee Paradox, a lot more comfortable. I'm getting, the back end kind of wants to bounce and chatter across stuff. Woo, that was tight. I'm having fun though. This is a playful bike. It wants to dance around and have fun and not just, doesn't ride like a cross-country bike other than the way it steers. I'd take this over a common Sol Meta any day, despite its heavier weight. Got to give a big shout out to my buddy Kenny for letting me take his bike. That's awesome. I got a few friends who let me demo their personal bikes, so you guys can see it. Give them a thumbs up and tell them thanks in the comments if you enjoy that. I really like this longer reach. This is the first time I've ridden a long reach bike with a steep head angle. And the long reach does help tame it down some. This bike ride reminds me a bit of the Carbon Chameleon, not quite as stiff in the back, almost, but the Chameleon delivers more vibration to your feet. Yeah, that is twitchy on the front end. I'm sorry to keep saying it. It keeps impacting me. What a beautiful day. I'm tired, I'm fatigued from this frame. Morning. That was fun. I wouldn't want to take this on much burlier trails. That front end is nervous. I feel like the Timberjack is less nervous. I like the long reach on the downs and on steep climbs.
Morning.
Morning. Thank you. But I wish the seat tube angle was a little steeper on the climbs so that the effective top tube was shorter. This would be fairly comparable to the Middle Child Steel with an angle set. Compared to the Ionic Johnny Rotten, oh, I'd take the Johnny Rotten in a heartbeat, even though they have similar geo. But that bike's also 4 times the cost of this bike being steel. So the cost is a real appeal on this bike. Be able to get a hardtail frame new for 600 bucks. That's appealing to a lot of people. And this would be the right bike if you're a heavy rider, if you're someone who isn't particularly easy on parts, you want strength over everything. And a heavy rider is going to be able to get more flex out of this than a lighter rider anyway. Man, I really want to ride the aluminum one to compare, because if it's not much stiffer, the aluminum one might be the one to get. This does have a bit of flex in it, but it's not supple. That Ionic Johnny Rotten, man, that thing was magical. That has set the bar for what a steel hardtail should feel like. And we're starting to see kind of 2 categories of steel hardtails. The overbuilt, burly, super aggressive enduro style hardtails, and more of the XC trail stuff that tend to be a little bit more supple. And this one, its geometry puts it in the XC trail category, but its construction feels a little more like the burly enduro style ones. This would be a great single speed commuter. I will say this is a playful frame. He wants to goof around, and I like that a lot. Feeling the weight of the Cush core and the aggressive tires that Kenny put on this. But I don't blame him. For riding Sedona on a bike like this makes a lot of sense. I probably have 19-20 psi in here, and the Cush core keeps it from rolling on the rim. And I don't really know who this suits. It doesn't suit the aggressive people that are going to want a slack head angle, and it doesn't suit the XC guys that want a light, snappy XC bike. It's kind of stuck in the middle. So all in all, I think this bike has an identity crisis. It's not sure what it wants to be. It's like the kid who secretly is in the school play, but he's also trying out for the football team, and he doesn't want either group of friends to know he's dabbling in the other. Not the lead role in the drama play, and he's not the starting quarterback on the football team. It wants to keep one foot in the cross-country world and the other foot in the aggressive hardtail world. And because of that, it doesn't do either really great. This head angle is cross-country land and maybe a little bit trail. And because of that, it's twitchy and nervous on the downhills. But because it's a heavier, burlier frame, it's not light enough to be snappy on XC stuff. It doesn't ride like a great light steel XC frame. It kind of rides a little bit dead, a little bit heavy. The rear end's playful though. So it's got a playful rear end, a good aggressive hardtail middle reach, and a steep head angle. Now the good news is this can be fixed easily with an angle set. Put an angle set on there, slacken that out to 66 degrees. I think this bike would start to find its true identity. I will say this is a very versatile bike though. It could be built up single speed. It's nice and cheap. It gets a lot of people into the hardtail game cheap, but man, that head angle kind of ruins it. Even with the seat post slammed all the way, that's too tall for me on a 150 dropper on a size medium. And in this day and age, with so many droppers that go up to 210 plus, we need shorter seat tubes. There's no reason to have that much gusseting there, and there's no reason for it to be that long. It simply doesn't need to be. I think a lot of bike companies want a straight line from the head tube to the rear dropout, and they think the seat tubes need to be as long as they used to be. They don't. I don't love the look of a straight line from there to there, but I know a lot of people do. I think that seat tube gusset is hideous, but it's also way too big. There's no reason it needs to be that big. That could easily be an inch or two shorter, and it would change the way this bike feels. All that said, this is a good bike. You can have a lot of fun on it, and if you own one, don't feel bad like I'm dissing your mom here. That's not what this is about. My job is to review bikes and tell you how they compare and help you know if it does get better than this or if it doesn't. It definitely does. I would not put this in the great bike category or the exceptional bike category. I'd put it in the good bike category. It's durable. It does have a little bit of the steel is real feel to it, but not as much as many people think. It still is fatiguing. Despite the pinched seat stays here, it still doesn't offer the compliance of a good steel hardtail. I'm sad because this bike has so much potential, and if they got it right, if they slacken that out to 66 degrees, built it a little softer so it's a little more of a supple ride, and if they lowered that seat, they could have one of the best budget hardtails on the market. It wouldn't take much to do that, but it would take effort and it would take some redoing, and I hope we see that on a new generation of the Kona Honzo one day. Until then, it's a good bike, but not a great bike. If you learned something and you find these reviews valuable, consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron. For as little as $5 a month, you can make a big difference on this channel and help me make more of these videos more often. Thanks for watching. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.